Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. Hori has announced a brand new fight stick and a brand new fight pad for Xbox Series S, X, and the PC. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, I initially debated on doing two different videos for this, one for the fight stick and the second one for the fight pad, but I decided just to mash it all up together and see how things go. So it looks like Hori is the first big manufacturer to release a fight stick and a fight pad for next generation systems. This one here is called the Fighting Stick Alpha, designed for Xbox Series X, S, Xbox One, and Windows PC. And now the fight pad is called the Fighting Commander OCTA, designed for the Xbox Series X, S, Xbox One, and as well as Windows PC. I'll first start out by taking a look at the fight stick. If you're interested in the fight pad, feel free to fast forward probably halfway through the video, give or take. I actually don't know the timestamp at this point. I'll try to leave it in the description below. Now the fight stick is a very interesting name, the Fighting Stick Alpha. This is definitely not to be confused with the Mad Catz stick called the Fight Stick Alpha. So interesting name aside, this is a very new type of fight stick from Hori, I would say. Previously, trying to mod the artwork on their fight sticks, for example, was not the easiest thing to do. Their fight sticks were mod friendly, and I quite liked the plastic that their fight sticks were made out of, so you could unscrew and screw in the base quite a few times without really having to worry about damaging anything. But the artwork was another story altogether. Their artwork, trying to mod it, was, I would say, a bit of a hassle. And that looks like that has changed big time here with this new stick. So here is the stick zoomed in so you can see how easy it's going to be to replace the artwork. Hori, this is a massive thumbs up in terms of ingenuity here. Previously, your fight sticks were not a lot of fun to change up the artwork. This is going to make life a lot easier. For those of you who are not familiar with changing the artwork here, it's not going to be as simple as just opening up the top like this, considering you will also have to take out the buttons and unscrew the ball top, so the top part will actually flip up. But Hori again has you covered here. This stick opens up so you can easily access the joystick and the buttons and the PCB and even the wiring if you want to. This is an incredibly mod-friendly stick. Now, something else to consider about this fight stick is how it opens up. It opens up from the back to the front, whereas other highly moddable fight sticks like the Mad Catz TE2 Plus or this Razer Panthera here open up from the front to the back. Now, this subtle change might not seem like a big deal, but it kind of actually might be. Part of the problem with front closing fight sticks is the fact that all of the force is localized to one very small area. The latches on the front, where you put your hands, where you put all of the weight, is at the front of the fight stick. Having the latch there results in a couple of big problems. The first big problem is that sometimes it does tend to squeak. The second issue is that sometimes with all of the pressure being applied and even the banging to the front of the fight stick, the latch becomes damaged and won't work anymore. Now, there's no guarantee that by Hori moving the latch from the front to the back is going to fix those issues. I'm really curious to see if it does work. This stick will feature a Hayabusa lever and Hayabusa buttons. I'm a big fan of Hayabusa buttons. I think they're great. In terms of the lever, I'm not a big fan of the spring that's in Hayabusa levers, but at the same time, it's a very easy fix. My only kind of unknown here is whether or not the cable is detachable. I didn't read anything about it, and I figured if it was detachable, Hori would kind of promote that. At the same time, considering how moddable the stick is and how easy it is to open it up, it's not really hard to make a non-detachable cable detachable. If this Hori stick does look familiar to you, it's because it was showcased at EVO 2018. Now, I don't really know if Hori actually changed anything from the 2018 prototype, but a big positive here is that the prototype was made for the PS4. So if you're wondering whether or not the stick will come to the PS5, I will say there's a pretty huge chance of that. Now, moving on to the Fighting Commander OCTA. This is a huge change from the previous fight pad that was released for pretty much all of the major systems. Above me is the new Fighting Commander OCTA, and to the left is the old Fighting Commander. You can see there are a number of differences here. The D-pads are different, the L and R buttons are different, all of the buttons on the face of the controller are different. The shape of the controller is different as well. This controller will feel very different in your hands. There's also an added joystick on the new Fighting Commander. And those are just the visual differences. Behind the scenes, in the internals of the controller, there are a ton of differences as well. First up, Hori says there is an adjustable D-pad, and I don't know exactly what that means at this point, but we'll definitely see in the near future. Next up, this Fightpad will be able to save 4 different profiles, which might be pretty handy if you want to switch profiles for different games. These 6 buttons here on the front of the controller will feature micro switches, which is pretty huge. And lastly here, the joystick is an octagon joystick, which is a little different than a lot of joysticks in most controllers. Pretty much all joysticks, unless you're using an old N64 GameCube controller. But the joystick here is an octagon pattern, which will make executing moves a heck of a lot easier. And the joystick is also a short throw joystick, which means that the travel distance here between the center of the joystick and the outside edges is greatly reduced. And like I said for the Fighting Stick Alpha, I am willing to bet that this comes out for the PlayStation 5 as well. Now, previous Fighting Commanders I liked, but I also didn't like at the same time. The major issue I had with previous Fighting Commanders was actually the D-pad. I liked how the D-pad looked, I liked how the D-pad felt, and I liked how the D-pad worked when it worked. I ran into durability issues on a couple of different Fighting Commanders. I found that after a while, the D-pad wasn't the most responsive with heavy use, and I wasn't alone. There were a lot of people out there who reported the same issue. This was a common issue, but it wasn't a universal issue. There were some people out there with Fighting Commanders that lasted from heavy use and were absolutely fine. And I'm hoping here that Hori has fixed that, I would say, common problem on the old one. It does look like a completely different D-pad altogether, and fingers crossed it's good. Now let's talk about pricing. First and foremost, I will talk about this Fighting Commander. It is $10 more than the previous edition of the Fighting Commander, and to me, it's well worth it. You get a joystick with this one, you get micro switches in the buttons, you get headphone support, as well as everything else I just talked about. $10 to me is peanuts for an upgrade like this. Now moving on into fight sticks, the Fighting Stick Alpha is priced at $199.99, so $200. This or in this price range is pretty much standard for most fight sticks nowadays. It is $50 more than the Wrap that was previously released for the Xbox One. The Wrap is an amazing stick on its own. It's not as customizable, but it is a pretty good stick. So I think $199 here is fairly reasonable. And for reference, it's the exact same price as the Fighting Edge for the PlayStation 4. Anyways, that is all I've got for today. Let me know in the comments below if you're excited about the Fighting Stick Alpha or the Fighting Commander OCTA. I'm actually excited about both. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Thank you everyone, take care.